All right, strap in, everyone. Today, we're going deep, diving into the book of Hosea.
That's right.
This book, it's a roller coaster.
Oh, yeah.
Full of emotion, intense imagery,
Definitely.
timeless lessons, and all of this is packed into just this one prophetic book.
All packed. And you know what? We're going to tackle the whole Piley thing, the whole book of Hosea today.
I love it. Jumping right in, head first. So, Hosea, he doesn't mess around.
No, he doesn't.
He throws us right into this dramatic story using his own life as a metaphor for God's relationship with Israel.
It's a bold move.
It is. So to set the scene, we're talking 8th century BCE, Northern Kingdom of Israel.
Right.
God instructs Hosea to do something pretty shocking.
Yeah.
Marry a woman named Gomer who's a prostitute. I mean, you start with that, you definitely have my attention.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely meant to grab your attention. But there's a deeper layer here. This isn't just some personal story. It's an allegory for God's relationship with Israel as a whole.
Okay, so Gomer's unfaithfulness, it's a mirror, reflecting the nation's tendency to kind of stray from God and worship these other deities.
Yeah.
Especially Baal.
Baal was a big problem back then, a real rival, you know.
It's fascinating how the text, it even uses the names of Hosea and Gomer's children.
Oh, yeah.
Symbolically.
Big time.
So we've got Jezreel.
Right.
Lo Ruhama, meaning not loved.
Powerful.
And then Lo Ami.
Not my people.
It's heavy.
Each name foreshadowing the consequences of Israel's actions, like spelled out right there for them.
And speaking of names, Jezreel's interesting. It's a place, right?
Yeah, it is.
Associated with a lot of bloodshed.
Yeah.
And judgment.
Uh-huh.
But then later in the book,
yeah, that's the cool part.
the same name becomes a symbol of hope and restoration, like a complete flip.
It's like Hosea is suggesting something like even places tainted by sin, you know?
Yeah.
They can be redeemed.
I mean, that speaks volumes about God's character, doesn't it?
Totally. It does. This is a God who doesn't give up on his people, even when they, you know, they really mess up.
But before we get too deep into the hope and the redemption side of things,
Right.
we need to understand why. Why did Israel stray in the first place?
That's the million-dollar question.
Because the text, it points to a number of factors.
A lot going on. More than just Baal.
Yeah. So what else was going on? Like, was it just bad choices?
Right.
Or were there, like, external pressures?
Good question. I mean, the text actually mentions some very specific historical events. Like, the reigns of these kings, Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah down in Judah.
Right.
So this really places Hosea's ministry squarely in this time of intense political upheaval.
So much change happening around them.
Oh, totally. Assyria and Egypt, these were major powers.
Yeah.
And they were constantly vying for control.
And Israel's caught right in the middle.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place.
So maybe they were making these alliances with these foreign powers. Yeah, maybe.
Thinking it was, you know,
Trying to play the game.
in their best interest
Yeah, exactly.
to survive.
Survival mode. But it's not just the political alliances. Hosea also criticizes their reliance on, like, empty rituals
Okay.
and their pursuit of material wealth.
Uh-huh.
Essentially, he's accusing them of prioritizing these things over a genuine relationship with God. It's like they lost sight.
Yeah.
They lost sight of what truly mattered.
Yeah, it's a classic case of...
Misplaced priorities.
yeah. But instead of just scolding them,
Right.
Hosea, he frames God's response in this fascinating way.
Yeah.
He uses this imagery of, like, a covenant lawsuit.
It's brilliant, really. It's like God is taking Israel to court,
Whoa.
presenting this case against their wrongdoing. He lays out the charges, highlighting all the ways they've broken the covenant agreement.
I love that, a covenant lawsuit.
It's a powerful image.
So what are the specific charges?
Well, Hosea calls them out for worshiping these false gods.
Engaging in deceitful practices and just completely ignoring God's guidance? You know, like they just tuned him out.
It's a pretty serious indictment.
No, for sure. He's emphasizing the gravity of their actions.
That makes me wonder, what's the point of even laying out these charges? If God's love is so constant, like you mentioned earlier,
That's a good question.
is it just to shame Israel?
I think it highlights the complexity of Hosea's message. The purpose of this covenant lawsuit, it isn't to condemn,
Right.
but to convict, you see, to awaken Israel to the reality of their choices and the impact those choices have had on their relationship with God.
So it's less about punishment and more about like a wake-up call.
Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, snap out of it.
Yeah, a chance to see their mistakes and hopefully turn back to God.
Precisely. The goal is repentance and reconciliation.
Okay.
A restoration of that broken covenant. And Hosea actually provides this roadmap for how this can happen. But we'll have to delve into that more in the next part of our deep dive.
Ooh, a roadmap to restoration. All right, I'm already hooked. We'll be right back after a quick break.
Sounds good. Welcome back to our deep dive into Hosea. Really, it's amazing how he manages to, pack so much meaning into this message.
Yeah, it's really layered and intricate. And to think we're only just scratching the surface. Last we left off, we were talking about this whole covenant lawsuit thing, God taking Israel to court. It's a pretty strong image.
It is very powerful, and it really sets the stage for what comes next. It's not just, a guilty verdict and that's it.
Right.
Hosea outlines what they need to do to reconcile with God. It's like a roadmap to restoration.
Okay, so what does this roadmap look like? Where do we even begin?
Well, the first thing, the most important thing, is genuine repentance.
Okay.
Israel has to acknowledge their sin, turn away from their idols, and really, truly return to God with a sincere heart.
So it's not just about going through the motions.
No, not at all.
Or offering empty sacrifices. It's got to be deeper than that.
It's about a change of heart, a real change. And Hosea is very clear about this. He even quotes God saying, "For I desire steadfast love and not sacrifice, the knowledge of God rather than burnt offerings." It's a profound statement about the nature of faith, true faith.
It's a good reminder for all of us, even today. But going back to those foreign alliances that we talked about, how does Hosea address those in this roadmap to restoration?
He tackles them head on. He's not afraid to call them out. Hosea criticizes their dependence on all this political maneuvering, on military might.
Yeah.
Specifically, he calls out their treaties with Assyria and their attempts to get help from Egypt.
So it sounds like he's saying, to rely on God completely.
Yeah.
Don't put your trust in these earthly powers.
It's about relinquishing control. That's really what it boils down to. Stop trying to manipulate your circumstances and just surrender to God's sovereignty.
That's a powerful message, but it's not the end, right? There's more.
Oh, there's more.
What happens next? Does Israel actually, take these steps toward repentance?
Yeah.
Toward reconciliation?
Well, it's not a simple yes or no answer, but one thing is clear. Hosea paints this incredible vision of what a renewed relationship with God could look like. He describes it in terms of a new covenant. And it's not just some legal agreement.
Right. So it's more than just following the rules.
It's about love,
Yeah.
faithfulness, compassion. Those are the pillars.
Okay, I like that.
He describes it so beautifully. He talks about God betrothing Israel to himself forever.
Wow.
In righteousness, in justice, in love, and compassion. It's an incredible image of reconciliation, of healing.
I love that he uses the image of betrothal.
Yeah.
It's almost like a marriage proposal, a brand new start.
Exactly. A fresh start, a chance for Israel to experience the depths of God's love. In a new way, he even talks about God alluring Israel into the wilderness.
Into the wilderness. That sounds like a strange place for a honeymoon.
It might seem strange, but think about it. The wilderness, it's a place that's stripped bare. It's a place where you're forced to rely on God for everything.
You're vulnerable.
Yeah. You're totally vulnerable and dependent. And it's the perfect setting for this relationship built on trust, on surrender, where Israel can learn to depend on God's strength, not their own.
So it's like a second honeymoon,
It is.
a chance to fall in love with God all over again.
Exactly.
But, is that what happens? Does Israel really embrace this new covenant?
Yeah.
And experience this restoration that Hosea talks about?
Well, we're talking about the whole book of Hosea, remember? The story's not over yet. There's more to come.
The tension continues.
Yeah.
It seems like Hosea doesn't shy away from, the messy reality of our relationship with God.
That's what makes this book so real, so relatable. It's honest, it's raw, it's judgment and grace all mixed together, and the ending. Well, you'll just have to wait for the final part of our deep dive to find out.
We're back, and I gotta say, this book, Hosea, it keeps you on your toes.
Oh, absolutely.
So much has happened already.
So much.
A shocking marriage, a divine courtroom, it's crazy, and then a wilderness honeymoon.
Yeah, Hosea keeps things interesting.
He does. So where do we go from here? What else does Hosea have for us?
Well, we've been exploring this whole book.
The whole thing.
And as we move into these last chapters, I think there's a shift, a change in the tone.
Okay.
The judgment is still there, but there's this strong message of reconciliation woven in, of healing.
So even after everything, all the consequences of Israel's unfaithfulness,
Right.
Hosea still offers hope for them to come back to God.
Absolutely. He pleads with them, urges them to come back. He says, acknowledge your sin, turn away from your idols. It's a heartfelt call to abandon those foreign powers, let go of the empty rituals, and really embrace repentance.
It sounds like more than just, saying sorry.
Oh, much more.
What does he suggest they do?
Yeah.
To really show that they're repentant?
He gives them specific instructions. He tells them, take words with you. Express your remorse. Ask for forgiveness. He even gives them the words to use. Like, he's crafting this prayer for them, this confession, this supplication.
So it's about, really putting it out there, saying it.
Yes, taking that step to realign themselves with God.
And how does God respond to this?
Well, through Hosea, he makes a promise to heal their waywardness, to love them freely.
It's a beautiful image of forgiveness.
It is a promise of restoration. It really highlights God's grace.
It does. It reminds us that no matter how far we stray, there's always a way back.
Always. And the restoration goes beyond just forgiveness.
Okay.
Hosea describes a future where Israel flourishes, like a garden, their roots running deep, branches heavy with fruit. It's a vision of wholeness, of abundance.
It sounds almost like the Garden of Eden.
In a way, yeah. But this time, it's not naive. It's a paradise earned. Through repentance, it's built on trust and surrender to God.
So after this deep dive into the whole book of Hosea, what's the takeaway? What should we carry with us?
I think Hosea's message is clear. God's love, it never stops, even when we're at our worst. He's always waiting for us to return to him, to choose faithfulness, to connect with him genuinely. And when we do, there's forgiveness and a future filled with hope and a life of abundance.
That's a beautiful thought. And on that note of hope, we wrap up our deep dive into Hosea. We hope you enjoyed this exploration and maybe it sparked some thoughts, some questions of your own. Thanks for joining us.